Hello, podcast listeners. This is your host with the most, JJ from JJ Meets World. If you're just tuning in for the first time ever, thank you. Sit back, relax. I hope you enjoy. Get to know our back catalog. And if you are here because you've listened to every episode, we got a great one in store for you this week. We're going to talk about Father Fish stuff. We're going to talk about some boat stuff. And we're going to start off with a brand new JJ Meets World salute. I encourage you to do it on your own as you listen to it in real time. And by the way, if you'd like to help support our podcast, visit jjmeetsworld.com where you can donate to our Patreon, pick up some killer swag at our merch shop, or click the link to Apple Podcast and give us a 5-star review.
1, 2, 3, 4. J.J. Gordon, sort of like that Indiana Jones, in that he's always sniffing out his next adventure. Yes, he is. He's always interviewing guests so he can have them on his show and they can talk about pop culture, arts, and leisure. J.J. has his flag unfurled and he likes his french fries curled, and he's fun and then he twirls as he goes to meet the world. He will march into the rain even if his ankle sprained. Take a peek inside his brain. This podcast is called J.J. Meets World.
Tucker, I don't know about you, but every now and then I have to retire a pair of underpants.
Oh, you do have to.
You know, like you wear it for so long.
I do too.
Right? So sometimes the elastic gets shot in the waistband. Sometimes, for me, I rub away at like the inside of the crotch. And so like.
Which is why you want to wear boxer briefs, for me at least.
Right.
Because of all that friction.
Right. And I used to only wear boxers, and now I'm a boxer briefs man, and I'm never going back.
I can never go back, yeah.
In fact, the Goodfellow brand that I've talked about many times on this podcast, Target's men's brand.
That's the underwear. That's the underwear I wear.
They're
and
the
I
best.
do only black.
Ooh.
Only black. All black. All my underwear is black. That's it.
Would you like to see my underwear right now?
Sure.
Okay, hold on. I'll get it.
All right, JJ's undoing his pants. He's tucking away his gigantic ball sack. And I'm seeing maroon with it looks like kind of almost like a German cross, but it's blue. All right, now I'm going to show you Mike's.
Okay, show me your underpants. All black.
You can't even tell.
Black.
Where they started my sweatpants at.
Right. Now that we've showed each other our underpants, which is the official handshake of JJ Meets World, by the way. So if you meet other worldies out there,
Even if you're raw dogging it.
yeah, just show them what you got
Show
underneath
us
your
what-
trousers.
All right, welcome to JJ Meets World. Show us what you got.
I had a lucky pair of underpants that were the Jetsons. Loved those underpants. They were my favorite ones. And so I retired them a couple of years ago. And at one point, I had saved a bunch of pairs. Of
Is
my
it like a
favorite underpants.
basketball jersey?
Well, that was the thing, right? For a while, I was saving them. And Jill said, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Well, wouldn't it be fun to make like a quilt? Like, you make a t-shirt quilt?" She goes, "We are not taking your old underpants and laying them on the bed on a quilt. Like, that's just not happening." So Jill is a person who's very attached to inanimate objects that have a sentimental feeling for her.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Very hypocritical of her.
Right. And so I noticed recently that in the garbage in our laundry room, because I'm the guy who takes the garbage out on Tuesdays, I'm the garbage man. I noticed that an old pair of underpants, and they were underpants made for a girl, not a woman, if that makes sense. If so they're baby blue and they had like a little ribbon on the front and like stuff like that. And so I noticed that they were in the trash, but they were also folded in the trash. Like she folded them like if she was going to put them back in the drawer. And so yesterday I brought it up. We had a long drive because we got our boat. We're boats people
you're
now.
Boaters. You're boatsmen.
And so while we were driving down to Hankinson, I said, "Hey, listen, I noticed that you finally threw out that pair of underwear that you like so much." And she said, "Yeah, I know. It was a long time coming, but it was finally time to get rid of them." And I said, "I also noticed you folded them." She goes, "Well, yeah, they had just come out of the wash." And I said, "So wait, hold on." And she goes, "You can stop there." She goes, "Yes, I washed them and I folded them before I put them in the garbage to thank them for their years of service." And I said, whoa, hold on. They're years of service. And she goes, yeah. And she's the type of person who
bury me on a hillside with a view of the ocean.
she wants, like, during cleanup week, I think it's hard for her to drive around because she gets so
What if I see my
attached.
underwear somewhere?
Well, I think for her, she's like, look at these things that brought people joy, and now they're just garbage. Did you ever see the movie The Brave Little Toaster?
No.
Okay, so the idea is that the toaster and like all your appliances come to life when you're gone. It's just like Toy Story, but instead of toys, it's appliances. So your toaster, your heated blanket, your bedroom lamp, your AC unit in the wall, all this stuff. And so at one point, all of these things that are trying to find their way back to, there's a little boy who comes to this cabin every summer. And so they get to know the little boy and they want to go find the little boy, right? Because who's now a man, and they want to be a part of his life. And so they make this trek from the cabin to the city. And on the way, they end up in this junkyard. And in the junkyard, there's a car crusher. And so all the cars are singing a song called Worthless. And it scares the junk off of me. Like, I will be sitting there, and if that song, like, if I just happened to be scrolling through TV as a kid and that song was on, it was it's, you know, there's like a big, like, Rolls Royce with like cow horns on the front. It's like, I once took a Texan to a wedding. I'm worthless. And then like all the other cars are going worthless while this giant magnet is like picking them up and like putting them into the car crusher, which kills them, right? Oh my God.
Their essence does not remain.
It doesn't. It's like so. And like you could have a busted out windshield and stuff, but you're like, once you get crushed, you're dead.
Yeah, what are the rules of this universe of what inanimate objects become lifelike? Because like, would a tire on its own have a life?
No.
It would need to be a part of a larger piece.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a great question because you'd think, and at first I was like, was it anything that maybe like has an electrical spark of some kind in it? Because it's not like the carpet comes to life, right? Not like the chair is alive, but the vacuum cleaner, the toaster, the heated blanket, the television.
Okay,
Yeah.
I think electricity is the key. So this is basically what you're saying is Brave Little Toaster inspired David Lynch with his Twin Peaks: The Return.
I think indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also think that
Same universe.
like they really overshot it because The Brave Little Toaster was a pretty popular movie, and then the sequel is The Brave Little Toaster Goes to Mars. And I'm like, ooh, that might be a stretch because the payload on some of those like ships that they're taking out to Mars they're just not going to allow a toaster.
One of the subreddits I've been following recently is Bad Movies.
Oh yeah.
And someone just posted a trailer to a movie called Martians versus Mexicanos. And it's a Mexican animated film about how Martians attack the Earth, and the only people they can't mess with are the Mexicans because they just fuck them up.
Really?
Yep. I haven't watched it yet, but looks kind of good.
Sometimes I take for granted, we've got the best international feature, right, when it comes to the Oscars. Sometimes I forget that there's other countries that are making movies all the time. I mean, the United States makes the most movies, probably the biggest global blockbusters, but there are other countries that are making movies all the time.
Oh, I mean, China's huge. Their film production industry is massive.
Do you remember that episode of The Simpsons where they're going to have a film festival in Springfield and Mr. Burns wants to win it? And so he says, get me the Mexican equivalent to Steven Spielberg. And he goes, all right, Senor Spielbergo. And it looks
doesn't
just
Barney
like
win? Barney wins, right?
No, he doesn't. Barney does win, but like he goes against Football to the Groin with Hans Moleman presents Football to the Groin. And because Barney's
Don't cry for me. I'm already dead.
and then and he's like sobered up, and they're like, "It's a year's supply of Duff beer. Hook it to my veins." The Simpsons, what a great show! I can't get enough of it.
Yeah, if you want to make a character funny, make him a drunk.
Yeah,
That's basically what the 90s was.
Big news in The Simpsons. Did you see what they did in a recent episode that has like been getting huge attention?
No.
So there's a character named Larry who's a barfly in the back of Moe's Tavern, right? And he's been there like since the beginning. This like guy, I don't think he like has any lines.
Is he like
but
the
he's
trucker
there.
hat guy?
He's not the trucker hat guy. He's he looks a little bit like Homer.
Okay.
Like he's got a bald head and like he's just kind of sitting there always with an eye half open. Well, in a recent episode, they killed him off.
Okay.
And it was about like it's about that person that you don't really realize thinks of you as more, like is a deeper friend than you actually are. And so Homer is asked to like speak at his funeral and carry the casket. And so it's a pretty like intense thing. And they talked about how like The Simpsons is no stranger to killing off characters. They've done it over the years. Maude Flanders, Dr. Nick, Bleeding Gums Murphy.
I didn't know Dr. Nick died.
Dr. Nick dies in the movie, and they made it canon that he died in the movie. And
Who played Dr. Nick?
hi everybody. I bet you it's Hank Azaria.
Oh, yeah, probably.
Yeah. Hi, Dr. Nick. Yeah. Oh my God. Nancy Cartwright, who does the voice of Bart, Ralph, and Nelson, all recent. Like
Does she do Millhouse?
I don't know. Does she do? Maybe.
I think she does Millhouse as well.
too?
I think she does all the young boys.
Young boys. She's got a TikTok, and so she does like Bart stuff, and then they play like the clip from the show.
It's so wild seeing Bart's voice come out of her mouth.
It is. It's just crazy. Your brain can't handle it. It's like, have you ever been blindfolded and taken a bite of something, and then you look at it and take a bite, and it tastes different when you can see it?
Yeah.
Of course, I've talked about this. I'm a huge fan of the show Below Deck, specifically Below Deck Mediterranean with Captain Sandy Yawn. And my house guest Rachel and I finally got her addicted to it, and so she and I have been like binge watching episodes when Jill's out of the town. And we just recently finished season 8, which is the most recent season of Below Deck Med. And one of the things I noted to Rachel was like, it comes down to the chef in Below Deck. So if you are just listening to this and you've never seen it, Below Deck follows the people who work in service on these mega yachts that are being rented by, multimillionaires for vacation. So
Not to be confused with Star Trek Lower Decks.
correct. Yeah. Right. And it's Lower Decks. Which, by the way, did you watch that series?
No.
It's awesome.
That's what I hear.
It's so good. And it's a shame that it's ending. Like, it's really too bad. So you've got interior, and those are the people who do the cleaning, the serving. They have the most guest interaction, I would say. And then the deck crew. The deck crew are responsible for everything like docking the boat, putting out all the like jet skis that they play on, driving the tinder back and forth. And then they also help the interior from time to time if they need like plates brought up and stuff like that, dishes sometimes. And so there's also a chef. And the chef is the thing that makes or breaks, because a great chef means that the guests won't complain. And the guests complain a lot. In fact, let's say I owned a business and I was going to be renting this yacht, and they're like, oh, and they're filming Below Deck on it, I'd be like, absolutely not. And not because I think I'd be a jerk. I think I'd be a really, really nice primary charter guest. But
Is this a reality TV show?
it's a reality TV show.
Okay.
And it's the only reality TV show that I watch, and I am full on addicted to it.
You got to assume Fred Bevel shows up at some point.
God, you'd hope so. But they're not cruise ships.
Oh.
These are like you and I and like 5 other guests would be on it. So it's a mega yacht, but it's not a cruise ship.
Got it.
Right. So you follow, like, it's only a couple people. Then of course they all hook up with each other and they get drunk, and there's personality conflicts and blah blah blah, all that all that fun stuff that goes into a reality series, right? But I'm telling you, Below Deck Med, it is crazy good. And so we just started Below Deck Australia, and it's the first time I've watched another one of their programs. There's like 6 variations. There's Below Deck Yachting, Below Deck Adventures, the original Below Deck, and I've only watched this series that has Captain Sandy as a female captain. Now, an interesting thing that Captain Sandy does that I like is she knows how difficult it is to get promoted to captain as a woman. there are very few female like yacht captains. And so she's constantly trying to give, women an opportunity to like get up to the bridge and like, how can I teach you? How can I help you? She's pretty good when it comes to leadership, but she also like has a very strict boundary of, I don't go out with them. I don't eat with them. Like, I am the captain and I need to have a separate, she puts up a wall, and I think that's a good idea.
It's a good idea.
In a recent episode, she also detailed about how she had been like homeless and addicted to drugs, and she essentially took a job on a boat so that she could clean herself up. It was her way of like detoxing, because if you're on a boat in the middle of the ocean, you can't get a hold of drugs.
Yep.
And she worked her way up to captain from, someone who had thrown their lives away completely, being like in the throes of like, it sounded like some pretty heavy addiction. And so I'm like, God, I respect you even more now, Captain Sandy. But we're watching Below Deck Australia, where they take people like around the Great Barrier Reefs, and Captain Jason is down there. First of all, so handsome, this Captain Jason. All the gals are like, Captain Jason, swoon. But he is much more connected. Like, he helps them put things in and out. He helps wash the boat himself. And I'm like, whoa. Why is the captain so involved in what's going on? And I'm getting to a point here that's important. And he told someone a key to being a manager that was told to me by a guy named Al Colligan at the Viking campground of WeFest, working 10,000 Lakes years ago. The first time I ever managed a campground. Al, old school teacher from Mahnomen, who was like the night manager, but he would come on and kind of help me like during the shift changes and stuff like that. And this is the greatest piece of management advice I ever received. And Al told me, he goes, listen, as a manager, you're responsible for this whole operation, right? You're responsible for the guests and their interaction here. You're responsible for your employees. You're responsible for the environment, the space, everything like that. And he goes, I see when a big line is forming, you go and you help get like, the line down and everything like that. You think you're helping, but you're actually hurting the situation, because it's your job to delegate. If you see a problem, you need to delegate that to someone to go and fill in and fix it. And I started with a but, and he goes, no, but hear me out. This is what you're doing. That 10 minutes you're helping in this situation, there are other situations popping up that you're not delegating things to, and those things now are coming down and becoming bigger problems.
Yep.
So your job is to oversee everything all the time, and you need that eye for like, oh, there's a situation here, there's a situation there, and you need to assign your people accordingly. I have followed that through in so many ways, because a good manager doesn't, like if there are times when you need to step in and help out. And like, first of all, you should never ask someone to do something you're not willing to do yourself, right? Like, I will go clean a porta potty, but I'm also going to ask someone to go clean a porta potty, right? But that idea that like, yeah, you're supposed to be keeping your eye on the whole game at all times. Right. Like, it's the same way as a coach, right?
Yep.
If your coach was also a player, you'd never get anything done. Your win record would be horrible.
Yep.
And so I have loved that. And so Captain Jason was just giving this advice to a bosun who's the head of the deck team. I know so much about sailing now. Also, I think I would be great. I was like, I could be interior, I could work deck. There's things that some of these people are complaining about. I'm like, come on. Like, let's just get the job done.
That whole scenario sounds like a nightmare to me. There's
you would hate it.
Single piece of any of that I would want to do.
I also think that you would hate yachting.
Yeah.
I think that you would hate it, but I would love it. I'd be so good at it.
I wouldn't mind like for an afternoon going out in a yacht or whatever. If someone's like, hey, can be on my yacht for an afternoon as a guest. Okay, sure. That sounds like fun. But that's about as far as I would go. It'd be like, this is only for a few hours, right? Then we go back and I'm not on this boat anymore, right? Yeah.
Guess what I'm naming my boat? He's thinking hard. I'll give you a hint.
The Ecto 2.
No, that's a good one though. I actually, and like, I think their tugboat, I think the tugboat's Ecto 4.
They have a tugboat?
Yeah, in the video game, which I believe is canon.
It's canon.
The one that came out that they actually wrote and did the voice work for that came out like in 2006 or
They have
2007.
multiple vehicles.
Yeah, it's an Ecto tugboat, and it looks like a tugboat, but it's painted to look like an Ecto, and it's got the lights and everything. It's awesome. I think that's Ecto 4
That's Ecto 4.
because they've got the Ecto one, and I think technically the one in the second movie is Ecto 2.
Okay. They
And
have
then-
the second model.
I think that there's some like an abandoned like helicopter or something that they're supposed to have. That's going to be Ecto 3. No, this is Ecto 4. Anyway. Don't need to get that deep. No, it's an I'm stealing it directly from Arrested Development's development. It's the C word.
The C word.
I'll leave when I'm good and ready. The boat that we got, I think it's called like the Sunbeam. Like it's got the name on the back and it's got a Jesus fish on it. Mm-hmm. And so we're like, well, this is what we'll put it. And so Jill and I have done a deep dive. So it's a 1995 Princecraft made boat. It's called the Vancanza 220. It's way bigger than I thought it was going to be.
Where are you storing this?
So it's up in my in-laws' farm now. And we were thinking we were going to put it in a barn. It won't fit in the barn.
They're just the
It
Jeep
is
in there?
huge. So right now it's got a new boat cover, but it's just kind of hanging out right
Okay.
now. Just kind of hanging out.
When do you think you're gonna take that baby out?
So next weekend's opening fishing. So not then. We've got to do a little bit of work. I've got some people who are going to come to do like a vinyl patch and repair.
Nice.
We wanted to give it a deep clean so that it doesn't have any of the like leftover stuff from the people we bought it from.
You got your captain's hat all picked out?
Oh, buddy, I have a captain's hat, but then I also have like first mate hats and stuff like that. So every time that this thing goes out, it's going to be amazing. But so we've watched a bunch of YouTube videos from people who are like, hey, are your decals peeling? And so I think we're going to get this thing like really like primed to look good.
You got to join like a Discord server or something
Yeah.
about boat repair. I just joined the Father Fish Discord shoal where it's all these people showing, here's a photo of my natural aquarium and try to use this dirt. Don't use that kind of dirt.
Interesting.
It's pretty awesome, actually. I'm so late to the game on Discord.
So here's the thing. You and me both. I was just invited to a private Discord server and I accepted it. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll go and like look if there's other servers. I don't know how to add other servers, so I'm only
You have to
using
get
it for this
invited by
thing.
him. And
Okay.
so an invite has to come to you. And like the way that the Father Fish one works is you go to his website, and then if you want to join the Discord, you click a button and you automatically are given an invite right there, right? Oh, do you want to accept this invite? Otherwise, people have to send it to you. Okay.
So I can't even just like go and look for open servers or anything like that.
I'm not sure. I don't know enough about Discord to really say.
So to get into the one that I'm in right now, so you get an invite that takes you to called like a preliminary chat, and you earn points for everything that you do in the chat. And what they want to do is they want to weed away people who just want to get an invite, get in there and not actually participate.
Yep.
It took me 2 weeks. And like one night I chatted for like 6 hours. And so like every time you get to like, and you had to earn like 5,000 points.
What was this for? What was the topic?
I am not at liberty to say.
We'll have to start a JJ Meets World Discord at some point.
What are people going to do on it?
I don't know.
It's like Mike,
Show-
it's
here's
Mikey,
my-
Mikey
here's my
Sunrum,
underwear.
Who's like,
Here's my underwear
It's
today.
just underwear pictures. Thank you for your years of service. I am very excited to get on the boat. But I will say this though too, like I've already told Jill that there's going to be some rules for the boat that she and I are going to have to adhere to, which is sometimes Jill and I get into situations where our communication is not great, but I'm relying on her and she's relying on me, and one or the other shuts down. So I said, Jill, you understand that to get the boat in and out of the water, somebody's got to be in the pickup truck backing the trailer in, and someone's got to be in the boat. I can't do both of those things. So we're going to have to train you to do both of them at a moment's notice. And I said, I doubt that there's going to be a lot of days where it's just Jill and I going out somewhere, but that's part of the game, right?
Not that bad though.
It's not that bad. This boat is big. It is, she's a big lady. And so, she had said like, well, I don't know how to back up a trailer. And I said, well, listen, this is what my dad taught me. As a kid, I wanted to use the boat all the time. And so putting the boat in the water became one of those things where I always wanted it like 2 weeks before my parents were ready. So my dad said, okay, you want to put the boat in the water? You and I are going to work on this. And so I remember a weekend where I over and over and over, like maybe 50 times, had to back the boat trailer into like a small space and then take it out and back it in and take it out and back it in. And then I had to work it. And at one point I was like, well, the trailer's light enough. Why don't I just pick it up and pull it over to the thing? And he goes, nope. Because you got to learn how to back up a trailer. And he goes, an empty trailer backing up is way different than a full trailer. And so I'm pretty dang good at backing up trailers. And then like for a while I did that tool trailer that was really heavy. And so I'm pretty decent at backing stuff up. And partially it's slow and steady wins the race. Not trying to, you aim small, you miss small. And so if there's an area that's so narrow that like I'm worried I'm going to be able to get this thing in, I have to get a spotter on each side, right? And they have to be able to communicate because everyone has a different way of like telling you how to back up. Some people use just one hand and they like wave to you and that's back up. And then they'll hold their hand like a Black Panther type thing. And you're like, what does that mean? And like that stop. Some people just give you the open hand stop. And so I even tell the people who are giving me motion, I'm like, this is what I want. And then I want you to use your hands and show me how close I'm getting. Because if your hands go within your shoulder, like the distance between your shoulders, I automatically am like, okay, I'm too close because now to get it back out with the fenders. And I'm like, I don't want you to look at where the boat is. I want you to look at where the wheels are because the wheels always stick out a little bit further. And so Jill and I are going to do this thing in May where we are going to, I'm going to teach her how to back up the boat. And then I'm going to teach her how to like drive the boat on and off because putting a boat on a trailer that's this big, you put the trailer like halfway in the water and essentially you gun that boat like onto the trailer. And
because you don't have like a dock lift or anything that you could be using for it.
Yeah. And then we also are going to like the DNR has all this stuff that I'm going to print out and laminate about like aquatic invasive species because you've got to make sure that you aren't bringing zebra mussels into an area that don't have them. And I grew up as a lake kid where you put the boat in the water in May, you take it out in September. And then you've got a lift. And so it never comes out. Now I'm going to be in and out of the water all the time. In and out and in and out and in and out and in and out and in and out.
Do you think the next purchase for you is to get a lake place?
Oh, I would love one. I in fact, like Jill and I were even talking about this. I said, even if we got a lot and got like a prefab home, something like that, I would be in hog heaven. I would love that so much.
And then you'd just be there year round.
Yeah.
In the garage, and then you put it out for the summer.
Right.
Every weekend you guys drive out there.
And even if we got the people that we bought the boat from are on Lake Elsie, which is down by Hankinson.
Okay.
And if you've never been to Lake Elsie, it's beautiful. Like it's a lake, but it's like on the North Dakota side and a lot of permanent homes. And it's just kind of tucked there like this little secret. And so the people we borrowed from said like, well, yeah, we bring a trailer every year and put it here, but we store it it must be like a fifth wheel trailer. And then we store it during the rest of the year. We really don't spend the night a lot, but we use it as like a party. And so they're at the top of this hill and then it's a pretty good slope. In fact, he called it his cardiac hill. And then at one point they've dug into the side of the hill and put all this retaining block. And so they've got a nice, huge, long patio, like brick patio with a grill. And then you walk down a little further and there's another patio. And then there's just a dock at the end. And then with a boat lift. And so they don't have a permanent space, but they get that lake life that you want. And really what I want is to be able to invite 40 people down to the lake and have like a humdinger and be like, we're having a rib cook-off.
Yeah. I haven't gone to the lakes yet this summer. I cannot wait. I'm going to make a resurrection jar, a couple of them when I get down there. I'm excited for that.
What's a resurrection jar?
I thought I talked about that previously. Maybe I didn't. I think I had started talking about the natural aquarium stuff that I'm reading about or whatever. Resurrection jar is where you go to any natural body of fresh water and you reach in and what you want to do is you want to grab like a good fistful of muck, like leaves that have been dead there and been there for a while. You're not really trying to get a bunch of mud. It's more like refuse and detritus and sticks or pine cones or whatever. Pine needles been sitting there. And you put 1 or 2 big handfuls in like a big mason jar. Then you fill the mason jar the rest of the way with water. Then you take it home and you put it on like a windowsill or someplace that's going to get some direct light. You don't want it to cook, but you basically want it to sit there for like a month. What it's going to do, within 1 day, you can start to see little life forms in it. Little worms and all these little things that baby fish eat and small fish eat. And if you're raising a natural aquarium, meaning you've got a deep dirt substrate with a sand cap on top of it, and you're planting live plants into it, what you want to do is add anything that will help the bacteria and all the other microorganisms that are in that substrate to gain a foothold.
Okay.
And what it's referring to is called a food web, where you have all these little microscopic things in the soil that's breaking down all of the poop that's going into the soil from the fish, basically. And then the little babies, like brine shrimp or whatever, that kind of come up from there, the scuds and stuff, they get eaten by the fish. And then the plants that are in there are feeding off of a lot of that nutrient that's been broken down in the soil, and then their leaves die too and fall and feed the soil. So basically you have like a complete system, and you're trying to kickstart it by throwing in a bunch of actual life that actually does that right away. It's also a way for people to basically grow fish food. So they'll just keep a resurrection jar there, and instead of dumping the whole thing into the aquarium, they'll use like a turkey baster and siphon out a bunch of like the little microorganisms that are in it and spray it in, and that's all you use to feed your fish with. So it's really, really cool. And so I'm working on 2 right now. I've got one where I went to the Red River and I picked it up. And so that's sitting in my backyard right now. And then I also wanted to try one where I took a mason jar and put a bunch of dried leaves in it and let rainwater collect in it, because I want to see if it can also do something similar to that way, or if you need stuff that's already been decaying in the bottom of the lake. But essentially, like, life comes from death, and all of the fresh water systems, their main food source, the reason they exist in the first place or can exist, is because of leaves from trees. So the leaves from trees, that is the fundamental food source for all freshwater fish, essentially. And so, like, trying to create that trying to replicate a natural process in your aquarium can actually have a lot of benefits long term if you can get it done right.
I thought like a resurrection jar had something to do with like water from the River Jordan or something like that.
I mean, it does have like a biblical connotation to it being called a resurrection jar. But I think that term has been used for other things too. Resurrection.
Yeah, like in the movie Office Space, they're listening to that song like "Back up your ass with the resurrection
jar." Yep, that's what they say. Yeah, it's really interesting to see all those things get brought up in pop culture like that.
You mentioned a turkey baster.
Yeah.
And I think that we should stop calling them turkey basters.
That's how you were conceived, right?
Close, very close. My dad's turkey baster. No, but here's the thing. We never used a turkey baster in my memory. Like, I don't use a turkey baster.
I don't own a turkey baster.
So like my turkey is perfectly moist and perfect.
I have never personally bought a turkey baster.
Okay, so we had one growing up, and I remember the day we got rid of it, and it's because during the flood of 1997, my buddy Tim slept over at our house, but I had a downstairs basement, but we had taken the toilet off of the like flange because we were worried that the basement was going to flood. So at that time, like, you use these things to like essentially block the drain so that like sewage can't come back up. In the middle of the night, Tim got up and used the toilet, which is sitting in a weird spot, and so it's full of pee. And so my dad had to use a turkey baster to like, essentially like get all the pee out of there. And I remember him going like, because this is an era where I think Tim and I drank nothing but Surge and ate garlic cheese bread from Domino's for like 12 hours. And so
you should have used an empty ice cream bucket.
Here's the thing, though. Here's the problem. Think of a toilet. Think of a toilet. Okay.
Of one.
There's no water in it. Like when Tim pees in it, like we've drained the water. So you've got to get down into that area. And because we don't know when we're going to put it back on. And like, it stunk. Like, it stunk like urine really bad. And so, yeah, so he used a turkey baster. And then we threw it out. But my dad did have a good joke where that Christmas, my grandmother did believe in basting turkeys. And he was like, Mom, I hope that turkey baster we gave you works out really well. He was like, only been used once at our house. And I remember going like, oh, no.
You just said the phrase, your grandma believed in basting turkeys. Mm-hmm. Do you not believe in basting turkeys?
I don't.
Oh, okay.
I don't. And I'll tell you why. When you are cooking a turkey in any fashion, right? Whether it's on the grill, it's in the oven, it's even in your turkey roaster. Every time you open the lid, you're letting heat escape and you're changing how the cooking process takes place.
Okay.
And so people are like, whoa, I baste every 30 minutes. You're probably adding 45 minutes worth of cook time when ironically that's what dries it out. My method is what I do is I take olive oil first and I separate between the skin and the meat with my hands. It looks disgusting, right? Mm-hmm. But I get that all the way down around the breasts. And then I put olive oil in there and then I put a couple spices, but then I put pads of butter underneath the skin. So it traps those things that you'd use for basting. And then when I usually grill the turkey. I pop it on there and then I don't open it. And because I've done enough now where I know it's not burning, I know I'm good to go. I put the appropriate amount of liquid in. In fact, I've got this, like when I say a laurel, you know what a laurel is?
Yeah.
Like the Greek laurel, right? Yeah. So I have a silicone laurel that I put my turkey on top of when I put it in the pan. Okay. So it holds it up a little bit out of the way so that it can drip into the pan. Okay. And I can put a little bit of liquid in there. So a lot of times people put liquid in the bottom of the pan, but really all you're doing is you're boiling the bottom part of your turkey. Got it. And you're not getting it as crispy and like delicious. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Never cooked a turkey.
Well, good news. I have. And like, if you want to go back, I've got a great episode where I talk about a full Thanksgiving meal and like including how to spatchcock your turkey.
Blood eagle it.
Mm-hmm. So, you know what I should do is like, here's what we should do. We should sometime come over and I'll cook a turkey. I'll I'll put it in like the oven because I think that a turkey is the perfect group meal.
Yeah.
You can slice the meat, put it on sandwiches. People can just eat it like on its own. It goes perfect with so many other things. Potato chips, potato salad. Like it is just it is a perfect thing for guests.
I've thought about like going, hey, I should sit down and go, what is my absolute favorite Thanksgiving meal? And then just teach myself how to make it for myself whenever I want it.
And people wait until Thanksgiving to have this perfect meal. You have a couple times throughout the year.
It is so good any day of the week.
Yes.
Especially leftovers. Turkey sandwiches after that.
Let me ask you a question because this was a big argument in my house this week, like a huge argument. Do you consider gravy a condiment?
Ooh.
And I'm not talking about like the definition of condiments. Do you consider gravy to be a condiment?
No, I don't. But I could see
the argument, right?
I could see the argument for it.
You and I are on the same page.
Okay.
To me, like it's too refined of itself.
It's a food byproduct.
Yes.
And then I can see like, oh, you can have it with or without that byproduct. But to me, a condiment would be like a completely separate thing that didn't come from the thing that you're making, right? Or didn't come from the meal that you're making in some way.
And see, like that's, I think, part of the argument for gravy being a condiment, right? Like,
sure,
you'd never eat gravy on its own. It is something you'd use to complement something else. So this argument, I mean, Tucker, it got involved. Like at one point I thought like, hey, listen, everyone, we're all
the broth
friends.
in a beef stew a condiment?
Good question, right?
It's not.
A good question. It's, to me, I also don't consider butter to be a condiment.
Right.
I consider it sort of like an elemental part of cooking. Mm-hmm. Yes, you can use butter as a condiment, but
hey, Siri, what's the definition of a condiment?
See, this is the problem because it's going to talk about sauces.
A substance such as salt or ketchup that is used to add flavor to food.
Now, here's the thing. Salt is not a condiment. It's a seasoning.
It says a substance. Well, I think it's a condiment is the way you're using it. I think it's really what it is.
I think a condiment has to be wet. Like that's the whole thing.
So
right?
yeah, because I guess if I wanted to add salt to my burger, so I put potato chips on it. Those potato chips are not a condiment.
Right. Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm.
As a condiment seems like it would be a sauce of some kind. Then
Right. Which
but
gravy is close. But here's the thing too. Like
it is.
But, like,
it's not just close. It is a sauce.
biscuits and gravy as a meal, like you don't like. That's not the. It's not something you're adding onto it. Like you couldn't just have biscuits. You have to have biscuits and gravy if you're going to eat biscuits and gravy.
Do you remember that episode of The Man Show when they went around the mall like offering free gravy to people?
I don't.
Just free gravy. Just, you want some gravy on that? We got some right
Boy.
here.
Surprised they haven't tried to relaunch that program.
I think Jimmy Kimmel and Adam Carolla are doing other things at the
They're
moment.
just fine. But it could be. What about a new generation of mans?
I forget who the two dudes who replaced them at the very end, because they had two other guys do The Man Show, but I can't remember who that was.
Do you think Ben Stein was really that smart on win Ben Stein's money?
No.
I think he might be.
I think he's intelligent.
Is he still alive?
I have no. That's a good question.
Right? Is Ben
he was
Stein
old
still alive?
back then.
Yeah, I feel like.
I just deleted IMDb app from my phone.
Really?
I never use it.
Oh, I use it all the
I
time.
never ever use it. And if I really want to look something up, I'm like, I can just go to the website real quick. I don't need to.
But the website's going to be like, have you tried our mobile app?
Yeah, it is.
You should try our mobile app.
And then I'm like, you know what? I don't really need to know who was the second unit grip on Jaws 2.
Yeah, Dan Masterson? You don't want to know who Dan Masterson is?
I'm trying to come up with a collection of VHS that Dan Masterson gripped on every single one.
That's one thing where it's like Rick McCallum, okay, who's the producer of all the original Star Wars movies and the prequels. I don't know. I don't think
Was he the
sequels.
producer of the special editions, but not the originals? Am I getting that correct? I don't know.
You might be right.
I think he was. I think he didn't join until the special editions,
and then they carried him through to the prequels.
I think so.
He's one of those guys where you look at him and you're like, ugh, you don't understand entertainment at all.
Well, I do love seeing him sit there after watching the first cut of episode 1, and you can just see him going, fuck. Damn it.
I know we talked a lot about episode 1 in the last podcast, but one thing that that kind of really captured my imagination is when if you were not of age, like if you were not between 12 and I would say like 25 years old when that movie came out, you don't really understand the hype that surrounded it. It was a full year. I think it was 60 minutes dedicated a full month. Like each episode of 60 minutes leading up to the release of that movie had a feature on different aspects of it. So like the blue screen technology. And then there was a piece that had like how they built the sound effects. Like how do you build sound effects for a pod racer? No one's ever seen a pod racer before.
I feel like that may have been the biggest hype a movie has ever had.
Yeah.
I
It's
think.
that could be very true.
I mean, I would consider that maybe the first Batman, because that was massive. You know, the country had Batman fever or whatever. But just the level of cultural permeation.
If there was a real disease called Batman fever, it would make you talk like this. Your brain.
Michael Keaton knew how to do it well. He just whispered. He just talked like this the whole time, which is a way better way to be Batman.
It was a lot of his eyes. He acted a lot with his eyes.
Real eye actor. Does a lot of eye work.
In Batman 2, Batman Returns, it drove me nuts how easy it was for him to rip his cowl off at the end. And I'm like, well, the bad guys would be ripping that off all the time.
Well, and also his eye makeup disappears.
Yeah. What's the deal with that?
Yeah, it's just, movie magic.
I guess.
Wasn't really there.
You know what else is some awesome movie magic? In the movie Captain Ron, they end up in Cuba, but it's not really Cuba. They just did a really good job making you think it was Cuba. That's going to wrap it up for today's show. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to help us continue to produce new episodes each week, visit jjmeetsworld.com, where you can donate to our Patreon, pick up some swag at the merch shop, or follow our link to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review. You can also follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all the sites the cool kids are using these days. JJ Meets World is produced every week by Tucker Lucas. You can find out more about Tucker's work by visiting moonbasemaria.com. If you want to get in touch with your host with the most, check out linebenders.com where you can find direct contact info for JJ or booking information. I always call them underpants, even though I know some people are like, oh, they're panties or underwear. Nope, they're... Wait, what did I say? Listen, just freeball it.